Ball pythons, which are undeniably one of, if not the, most popular pet snakes on the planet. You can find them everywhere. They come in more colors than Skittles, and they range in price from 20 bucks to over 40 grand. But what does a ball python do? Ball python gonna ball python. But why does ball python ball python? Let's find out. So ball pythons, also known as royal pythons, more on that in a little bit. They have a kind of bizarre physique compared to most other snakes, like your traditional bodied serpents like colubrids and elapids, which are very slender snakes. These guys have a little bit extra chunk to them. Also, as a reminder, this is not a captive care video for ball pythons. We are just going to talk about them in the wild and their ecology and things like that. I'm not going to go over their humidity and caging requirements and things like that. So, ball python, or Python regius, we got to break it down. So it is in the kingdom Animalia. It is in the phylum Chordata because it has a spine. It is in the class Reptilia because it's a reptile. And then it is in the order Squamata, which is snakes and lizards. So from the order Squamata, we go to the suborder Serpentes, which is snakes. And then we go to the family Pythonidae, which is a group of non-venomous constricting snakes that are in Africa, Australia, and Asia. And then lastly, we arrive at the genus, which is Python. Now, surprisingly, not all pythons are in Python, the genus, but they all are in Pythonidae. Now, Python, the genus, is made up of pythons that have kind of a thicker body, this kind of flecked pattern to them, and then it includes snakes like rock pythons, Burmese pythons, short-tailed pythons, and then the ball python. Ball pythons were first described in 1802. They are the smallest member of the genus Python in Africa, not the smallest African python. They have this shorter, stocky body, this dark brown, almost black splotch coloration, and then they have this bright white or cream underbelly. Now, Butters here is one of my education animals. He is obviously not the right colors. He's albino, so he's white and yellow as opposed to the normal coloration, so he would not survive long in the wild. Ball pythons get 3 to 5 feet long, 4 to 5 pounds. They're kind of on the shorter end for medium-sized snakes. Females do get larger than the males, which is typical for most snakes. So Butters here is an adult male, so girls will get even bigger than this. The best way to sex them is to either probe them or avert their hemipenes. Some people say you can kind of eyeball and guesstimate by the length of their tail or the size of their spurs, but that's not as accurate. And they'll live about 20 years in the wild, and they've been proven to live twice that in captivity. In the wild, they're found right across sub-Saharan Africa, underneath the Saharan desert. They're found from the Atlantic coast right across into the heart of Central Africa and Uganda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and at least a dozen plus other countries in this region. They don't really go that south into the really tropical zone. Most of their range is arid or semi-arid, very hot, dry winter seasons and wet, rainy summers. Primarily found in savanna grasslands and forest edges. They're really not found in rainforests or down in the Congo or anything like that, like a lot of people think they are. Ball pythons are very inactive during the day, which is a lot like our first animal spotlight species, the red-footed tortoise, which you can go back and watch here. They'll spend the day in abandoned termite mounds, in fallen trees, hollow logs, abandoned animal burrows, really just about any hidey hole they can tuck themselves into. It's going to be nice and cooler in there, and it's also going to be more humid. Now, in these burrows, these snakes will do something called estivate. Picture it like a warm weather brumation or hibernation. So here in New York, when it starts getting really, really cold, our animals will go underground or into caves or something. They'll lower their heart rate, they'll lower their metabolic rate to avoid going out into the cold. These snakes do that, but for the hot season. And because food is so much more scarce during this kind of hot, unforgiving season, it also means they don't have to waste time going out looking for food. These snakes are crepuscular, which means they're most active at dawn and dusk. They're not truly nocturnal, although they have been found in the really early hours of the morning out looking for food. Ball pythons, like most reptiles. They're very solitary animals. They don't really play well with others. And they have a very interesting defense mechanism, which is in the name, ball python. When they get scared, they're going to roll up tight into a ball, and they're going to tuck their head on the inside. So no matter what way the predator tries to claw or get them open, they are going to not have a good time. They are not going to be able to fit it in their mouths, and they're not going to be able to get at the sensitive head right in the middle. Unlike Butters, though, this little one shows it off very well. I got this little guy from a recent police seizure case, which you can watch the video to right here. This is a baby pied ball python, so you can see he tucks his head in right in the middle like they're supposed to. Wouldn't do much good against the big predators, but he's trying. And the pieds mean they have these giant blankets of white, no coloration, mixed in with the kind of brown and blacks, which you would see kind of closer to a typical ball python coloration. Now, ball pythons will reach sexual maturity around 2 to 3 years of age, and with snakes, weight is a big factor in that as well. So snakes over 3.5 pounds tend to be the best for breeding. So females will lay 4 to 10 eggs with an incubation period of 2 or 3 months. They'll actually go out and bask for short periods of time and then return to wrap around the eggs to help incubate them with that warmth. And then once the eggs hatch, they're on their own. Mom's not helping. So diet. They are primarily small mammal hunters. They eat a lot of mice, jerboas, gerbils, rats. They'll occasionally eat the small ground-dwelling bird if they happen upon it. As I said, they're not really going to be doing much hunting during the dry season, which is fine because these snakes can go quite a few months without food, no problem. Now, they use these labial pits, which are the little holes right here along the upper jaw, and they use those to detect heat traces in the dark. And then when they find the food, they're going to bite it, constrict it, obviously, since they're a python, to kill the food. When they're little, lots of things will try and eat these guys. They'll have predators like monitor lizards, predatory birds, jackals, even hedgehogs will go after the little ones. But when they're adults, there's not many predators, the main one being people, humans. And then there'll also be a couple other ones like feral pigs, wild dogs, hyenas, leopards will have the occasional go at them. They're listed as least concerned by CITES. They're really not a species in danger of going extinct anytime soon. In the past, though, they were removed in huge numbers for the exotic pet trade. But nowadays, I mean, everyone and their grandpa breeds ball pythons. I mean, just look at how many ball python-specific YouTube channels there are that do breeding. There's really no shortage of them in captivity. So the need for this is just absolutely plummeted. They're a big food source in a lot of their range, and their skin is sought after for the leather trade as well. Like I said, they're also called the royal python because years ago, centuries ago, supposedly Africa's rulers and monarchs actually wore these snakes as like a living jewelry, which is kind of an interesting choice of bling. By certain groups in Ghana and Nigeria, they're actually forbidden to be eaten. They're very culturally revered as like a savior and symbolic of the earth. If one is found in the village, it is actually left alone or carefully put back into the wild. And if one is accidentally killed, supposedly they'll do a small burial service for it. Apparently, the oldest ball python on record passed away at the age of 48 in 1991 at the Philadelphia Zoo, which is a fantastic zoo. You should really pop by it if you're in the area in the Northeast. Snake patterns are kind of like zebra stripes or tiger stripes. No two snakes have the same pattern, and Butters actually has something very unique. He has 2 well-formed hearts in his pattern, which are a huge hit with kids at the programs. So that was our spotlight on the ball python. Like the video if you learned something, and I will be doing a captive care video for these at some point, so make sure you subscribe if you want to stay tuned for that or any of the other animal videos I'll be putting out. Comment down below if you have a ball python, or which animal you'd like a spotlight video done on next. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and I'll catch you later. Everyone and their grandpa breeds bearded dragons, basically. So there's really not a need. There's really only a couple predators, adults being the main one. Feral pigs are another one. Not all pythons are in Python. So they have no. During the day, much like our first animal spotlight species, the red-footed tortoise. No. Ball